Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name's Colin, semicolon, Brez. You know the drill. Whatever you want to call me, doesn't matter. Today, we are going to be doing a little bit of a different video. It's going to be a farm highlight. And essentially, I'm going to be starting to do this going forward, where I highlight different farms that I'm doing that I think are lucrative. And hopefully, we'll be providing you realistic expectations on the kind of gold you can make from doing this farm, and, loot expectations as well. So today, the first one that we're starting off on is soul farming in Dragonflight. There are four different types of souls you can farm: Frosty, Arie, Earthen, and Fiery. So we can farm up these souls, and we have a chance at pets, and we also have a chance. Well, we don't have a chance. We can make engineering toys with the souls that we farm. Now, a couple of things to note before you get started on doing your soul farming is number one, you need a Zap Throttle Soul Inhaler. So, engineers can craft this. So, if you have engineering currently, you might be able to craft this and stick it on your characters. Otherwise, you can snag it off the auction house. And the other thing is these empty soul cages, which can be crafted by jewel crafters, but you can also grab the empty soul cages off the auction house as well if you'd rather do that. A couple of things to note with all of the different elemental dudes that you're going to kill for these souls is most of them have an ability. I think all of them have an ability that will interrupt your channeling of the Zap Throttle Soul Inhaler. So essentially, how the Soul Inhaler works is it takes, I think, 2.5 to 3 seconds to channel the Zap Throttle onto the elemental that you're wanting to kill. Now, they don't need to die while you are channeling the Zap Throttle Soul Inhaler, because once you channel the Zap Throttle, it'll put a debuff on the elemental for 30 seconds. So if they die within that 30 seconds, you will automatically receive their soul. But like I was saying, each elemental does do an ability that can interrupt your channeling of the Zap Throttle. So you just kind of have to watch out for that. Now, another good piece of news is that you can actually move around while you're channeling your Zap Throttle Soul Inhaler. So if you start seeing the dude you're attacking starting to cast that ability on you that might interrupt you, you might be able to move while channeling it to avoid being interrupted. But you don't want to be interrupted because then it goes on cooldown and you've got the dude attacking you, and it just is it's a whole thing. So you want to try to avoid that. Um, so again, those are just some precursors that I would recommend keeping in mind when you do get started into farming souls. All right, wonderful. So let's take a look at the first soul, the Frosty soul. So first things first, where are we? So we are in the Azure Span, very southern point of Azure Span, right here at this little body of water. And the guy we are killing is the Awakened Revenant. So I'm going to just start attacking him now. And the ability that I want to avoid is Living Whirl right here. So I've just interrupted it. So now I know I can cast my Zap Throttle Soul Inhaler uninterrupted by this guy. Now, Bulwark is something that I have to watch out for. If I were to start casting my Zap Throttle while he had Bulwark active, it would actually block the Zap Throttle. So that's another thing to watch out for. But we killed him. And as you can see, well, actually, you cannot see because of my webcam, but in my bags here, you can see that I did loot this item called an Encaged Frosty Soul. Let me get to a safe spot here. So, looking at the thumbnail, you can see the duration says 15 minutes, and it is not a docile Frosty Soul right now. So, after 15 minutes, this will turn into a docile Frosty Soul, which is what we want. If I were to right click this to open it right now before it becomes a docile Frosty Soul, I'm just going to get some Rousing Frost out of it. Not worth it. But once it turns into a docile Frosty Soul, I can then right click it. So this is just an older docile Frosty Soul I already had. And then you can see I loot a Frosty Soul out of it. Now, there is a small chance that I can loot a Tide Spirit when opening these Frosty Souls. And that Tide Spirit, on average, on my server, at least specifically right now, it's going for around 60,000 gold. And then I can use these Frosty Souls for some engineering crafts that I'll show you towards the end of this video. Okay, next up we have our Earthen Soul. So for the Earthen Soul, I am in the Waking Shores, and I am on top of a cliff essentially, and this is right where I am at. So where my mouse cursor is, and like I said, I am on top of a cliff. So it's the Earth Shatter Elemental, and there's one actually on the cliff over here. You might see sometimes that like the one on this cliff is dead, so you just have to fly over the other cliff. And these are the guys that we are killing for the Earthen Soul. Now, this character does two separate castable abilities. One of them is interruptible, one of them is not interruptible. The one that is interruptible is the one that will break your channeling of the Zap Throttle Soul Inhaler. It'll stun you. So I usually begin attacking them, wait until they start casting the interruptible ability first, which is usually the first thing that they cast. As soon as I see them casting it, I will interrupt them and then channel my Zap Throttle. The other ability that you cannot interrupt by this guy is a knockup, but it does not stop you from casting your Zap Throttle Soul Inhaler. So as you can see, I just interrupted, and now I've gotten knocked up by him, but not a big deal. We got the Zap Throttle Soul Inhaler channeled on him, excuse me, and now you can see that I have the encaged Earthen Soul in my bags. So just like the Frosty Soul, 15-minute duration. After the 15 minutes, it will turn into a docile Earthen Soul. And from opening the docile Earthen Soul, you will get an Earthen Soul, which you see here. But you do have a chance of earning a Dust Spirit from opening these docile Earthen Souls and killing these Earthen Elementals. And the Dust Spirit currently on my server is selling for about 80,000 gold. Okay, second to last, we have the Arie Soul. So for the Arie Soul, we are in Onaran Plains on the far west side of the zone. So as you can see here, where my mouse cursor is, just above the Emerald Dream entrance, is where we do the Arie Souls. And we're specifically going to be looking for the Stormbound Colossus elementals, and that's what we need to kill. So for the Stormbound Colossus, they cast one ability that will put a big blue circle on the ground underneath your feet. If you get hit by that ability, you will be stunned. So that's the only thing you need to watch out for when channeling your Zap Throttle Soul Inhaler, which is actually that ability right there. But as you can see, I can move with the Zap Throttle being channeled. And now, looking at this tooltip, you can see Zap Throttle Soul Inhaler. It's got 20 seconds left on it. And so as long as I kill this dude within that initial 30 seconds, I will receive the soul from him. So we'll get this killed. This is my tank character, so it takes a little bit longer. But as you can see, we have received the encaged Arie Soul. And once again, there's a 15-minute duration for this to turn into a docile Arie Soul. Once it does turn into the docile Arie Soul, you will receive an Arie Soul from opening it. Now, the pet that you have a chance at getting from the Arie Souls is the Gale Spirit. That currently on Area 52 is selling for as well around 80,000 gold. So a great profit opportunity. And next we will take a look at the Fiery Souls. And here we are, Fiery Soul time. So this one is also in the Azure Span, just a little northeast of where we were for the Frosty Souls. So on the far east side of the zone, you'll see some lava pools, and this is specifically where we're at. And we are killing these fire elemental dudes. Now, these are probably the easiest ones to kill. The only ability you have to watch out for that will interrupt your Zap Throttle is the Fire Elemental will cast a ability. I don't know what it's called, but it puts a little ring of fire underneath your feet. That's all you need to watch out for. If you see that little ring of fire underneath your feet, just immediately move out of the way. But luckily, as a hunter, a lot of the times he's casting those abilities on my pets as opposed to me, so I don't even have to worry about it. But there we go. We've gotten the Zap Throttle. So that's the ability you want to watch out for. That will stop your channel of the Zap Throttle. But we got him killed. We received the encaged Fiery Soul. It's the same story, not going to go into it, but opening it up, we get the Fiery Soul, and there is a small chance to receive a Blazing Spirit from opening up the Docile Frosty Souls. I'm sorry, the Docile Fiery Souls. And the Blazing Spirit on Area 52 is also currently going for around 80,000 gold. All right, so now we have taken a look at how to receive all of the souls in all the locations to do that farming. But now you might be asking, well, what do we do with the souls? If we don't receive the pets, what are we doing with the souls to make money? And so let's take a look into that. First things first, you need to have Dragonflight Engineering. And second thing, you would need to get some knowledge points into the mechanical mind tree of Dragonflight Engineering. Specifically, you are wanting to get the node into learning the centralized precipitation emitter, as well as the environment emulator. Here it is, environmental emulator. So those are the first two things that we will take a look at crafting wise. So coming down in the tree, looking at the centralized precipitation emitter, this requires 3 Frosty souls and 3 Arie souls to craft. So what my recommendation would be is your character that you have farming Frosty souls. Once you've built up a bit of a stockpile, you would then want to switch them over to farming Arie souls. And if you have a character doing Arie souls, you would want to switch them over to doing Frosty souls. So that would be the first thing. And the reason that you'd want to switch them over is because you can submit crafting orders to your engineer to have these items crafted. But obviously, you would have to have both of the different soul types on the one character. And so it's the same story for the environmental emulator, actually. So these require fiery souls and earthen souls. So your character that's doing fiery souls, you would eventually just switch them and put them on earthen souls, and vice versa. So that kind of, I guess, transitions me into talking about, kind of the best way to do this farming. So you might have noticed that for each of the different souls that I just showcased, I had a different character uh, farming that soul. So I have 4 characters total that kind of currently their entire job, quote unquote, is to do soul farming. So just periodically throughout the day, I'll log into all 4 of those characters, get the soul, and move on. So as I kind of alluded to with some of this crafting, some of those characters currently are only doing Frosty. Well, they are only either doing Frosty souls, Arie souls, earthen, or fiery. So eventually, after I've gotten a certain number, it doesn't really matter how much. Usually, I go for around 25 to 30 of a certain soul. I'll then swap it. So if the character that is doing fiery, like I mentioned, I'll swap them and put them on earthen. The character currently doing earthen, I'll put them on fiery, and then this is the same story for Frost and Arie. So that's kind of the best way to maximize your output for this stuff. But another thing too is you could actually do this with like 8 characters. So if you wanted to only spend time doing soul farming, you didn't want to put time into anything else, you could essentially have 8 characters going through and farming souls. And by the time you finished gathering the soul on character number 8, the 15-minute duration should be reset for character number 1. And the reason that's important, and I haven't mentioned this previously, is but once you've gathered the soul, you can't gather another soul until it becomes docile. So you're required to wait 15 minutes between gathering a soul on each character. So if you did do it with 8 characters total, again, by the time you finished gathering the soul on character number 8, 15 minutes will have elapsed, and you're able to jump immediately back onto character number 1 and start the process over. The final thing that you can do crafting with is the portable party platter, and this requires 5 Frosty souls. Now, to get the portable party platter recipe, my recommendation would be is to go on Wowhead and look up the recipe. It's actually kind of an involved process to unlock this recipe. It's not too difficult by any means. There's just a couple of different steps that you need to follow, but it's really important, I think, that you get this recipe unlocked, and I would highly recommend looking into what's needed to unlock it and do so, because it's a very lucrative recipe. As you can see, my craft sim is saying it's 17,500 gold profit for crafting currently. So it's definitely something that you should do. So the final thing that I just want to kind of take a look at is expectations for some of this different farming. So first things first, I want to really highlight the fact that with some of this, like the pets, I only have one of them currently so far, which is this dust spirit right here. I've had this dust spirit for over a week now, and I really just want to highlight and stress the fact that you will get these pets. They are valuable, but they are not something that is just going to immediately sell as soon as you list it on the auction house. So you might get, depending on how much farming you're doing, you might get duplicates of some of these pets. You could go through if you want and level them up to 25. That might increase the chances of selling. Um, but just be prepared that you might have some of these pets just sitting in your bags waiting to be sold. But that kind of leads me to option number two, with depending on how much you're farming. If you're getting to a point where you're having multiples of each pet, then you probably have a ton of the souls, and therefore could do some sort of crafting and getting a stock, I guess you could call it, like I have for the environmental emulators and the centralized precipitation emitters. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because I'm now at a point where I am starting to sell these on other servers. And so you could do that as well to increase profitability, and then also take some of those extra pets you've received and take those to other servers as well. But keep in mind, I mentioned this with the pets being that the sell rate is kind of unpredictable, and that's kind of the case with the toys as well. It's not something that is just constantly selling, so this is a nice farm and kind of money maker to do, to kind of have some passive gold income. Even if I were to stop farming souls altogether right now, like I would still be able to sell a bunch of these toys for a long time. And I am going to be working on building up my portable party platter stock as well. Um, so yeah, I hope that you have found this farm and this farm highlight uh, informational, and I hope that you're able to apply this information to some of your gold making methods and start making some additional gold by doing this. So I would love to get some feedback. If you want to leave a comment letting me know if you've started doing this farm, how it's paid off for you, or maybe it hasn't worked out well for you, and I'd like to hear that feedback as well. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please feel free to like or subscribe. You can check out my stream. I do stream on Twitch and YouTube. I try to do pretty regular giveaways on stream as well. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay happy, stay safe. We'll catch you next time. Thanks.